Okay. Good afternoon, and and welcome to the stream. I'm here with Goblinesque by Giovanni Nava. They were kind enough to send this to me. They didn't really ask me to do anything about it. They just said, "Hey, thought you might like to check this out." And I was like, "Yes, looks awesome. Thanks." So I've marked it as sponsored, but I haven't looked at it other than looking at its page on drive-through. I haven't read it. This title, or sorry, I guess this cover image is about as far as I've got, but it looks cute as all get out. Hey, Brian Smith. Hey, Frederick. Hey, Beardy Ben. Let's see. Oh, I want to mention before I get too far into it. So on the drive-through page, you get a number of different things that come with this, which I'm not going to get a chance to delve into everything. Though I should probably grab the maps. Maybe I should grab the maps. That might be a good idea. We get the book, obviously, both pages, which I think I'm looking here. There's also in spreads. It comes in English and Italian. There are maps also in English and Italian. There are paper minis. And there's also a soundtrack. And I probably should have checked with Giovanni to see if I could play the soundtrack. But the way YouTube, that stuff works, or I should say the way just, rights and YouTube and things like that, it didn't seem to be kind of worth getting into that. So let me exit out of full screen here because I think I can open up the maps here as well. So here we get the maps. I'm not sure, having not opened the book yet. I don't know if I'll need to. If I need to, I guess just to say, if I should need to reference the maps, I can pull them up. So you get a whole bunch of stuff. It's a whole package of things. I really like the art style, just looking at the stuff just off the top here. The dungeon layout kind of giving me like those top-down views of the old, I guess, like Legend of Zelda that you see in Nintendo Power, where they give you those, the giving you kind of all the screens of the dungeon. Kind of that vibe I'm getting here. I guess insert roguelike of choice. Probably a lot of roguelikes have a similar look. But anyway, let's get into it. If if you didn't notice, I guess the elevator pitch for this is that you're playing as goblins. You're not the heroes. You are playing as the goblins. So the subtitle here: a daring misadventure about goblins and mayhem, designed, written, and illustrated by Giovanni Nava, with some proofreading and some play testing. All right, let's do that. I don't know if I like the just from a usability thing. That green, ooh, doggy, that green is that green against the white, especially for the small text. This is just a little bit of water for the working man, which I probably should have refilled. Hey, Brian, send me the link for your shameless plug, and I will I'll throw that somewhere. Okay, let's zoom here. Are these okay? Oh, they are linked. Cool. Hey, Magnus, welcome aboard. All right, I'm just going to go in order. So let's see. So introduction. Goblinesque is a role-playing adventure where players take on the roles of the often underestimated goblins. A ragtag band of green-skinned misfits is on a mission to find and protect a powerful artifact, not only to save their own hides, but also to prevent a greater disaster. It's a race against time. A curse hangs over the goblins and everything around them. Will they manage to survive and return the artifact to its rightful place, stopping the curse and, believe it or not, saving the world? Bum, bum, bum. That sounds great. I like that we have a goal. We've got a ticking clock. All good. All right, now we have a section called One Shot. The manor where the adventure takes place is vast and filled with creatures, traps, puzzles, and potential encounters. Because of this, it might prove too labyrinthine to explore in a single session. That's where the Curse of Patar's hand comes in handy. Thanks, Patar. The speed at which the curse takes hold of the characters and the environment could be entirely arbitrary in the hands of the narrator. This allows for better control over the pacing of the game, encourages players to make quick decisions, and turns a sense of urgency into a challenge within the challenge. A happy ending must be earned. Okay. So I guess we can. It sounds like they're saying that we could sort of turn the dials on that ticking clock to make it go faster or slower if we want to. Oh, excuse me. Magna says, I've always thought a monster-focused campaign would be great, like playing a tribe of orcs or goblins. Yeah, I mean, as Frederick noted, Mystara had some stuff, I think, about orcs. They might have stuff about goblins, too. I think it was known, the idea of these monstrous characters, like I think we often in our just the way the culture has grown up, we think of it as sort of a more modern thing, like fifth edition, and like, oh, everyone's playing, it's like the cantina in Star Wars. There's like every kind of creature is there. But in the white box, Gygax and Arneson, assuming Gygax wrote it, a little bit saying, play whatever kind of creature you want. And in his home game, I believe there was a Balrog character and other characters. And I think oftentimes during the kind of the 70s, this kind of golden age, I think people played all kinds of stuff. And it was only a relatively recent, I think, OSR, kind of the OSR sort of phenomenon of this tamping down. I think because of the whole, everything, there's such a huge proliferation from probably second edition on with just all the options and things. Certainly second edition for sure, and third edition. If we remember, the original OSR was a reaction to third edition, that era of D&D, not fifth edition, as people mistake, and all this kind of character options. So we get this kind of, in a sense, a backlash. People saying, no, humans only, or only the classic 3 whatever humanoid races, kind of that sort of thing. But in the beginning, people played all kinds of stuff. And look, I actually like human-only campaigns, and I like sometimes what it allows you to do in terms of just being really kind of crazy or weird, or just kind of being able to kind of go in different directions with those other humanoid or demi-human, however you want to call it, races or species, because then you don't have to worry about sharing your vision with the players. You can just have elves or dwarves be really, really weird, and they can just kind of be that, and you don't have to worry about players kind of following your vision, or you kind of do it. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing with a bunch of species, and that's certainly the ethos at the beginning of the game was all about that kind of thing. All right, so goblins, lazy, undisciplined creatures, greedy and mischievous. In other words, practically human, but unlike humans who hide their flaws behind the epic tales of legendary adventures, goblins have been cast as scapegoats, cannon fodder for every self-respecting dark lord, and punching bags for any group of bored adventurers. They are, in general, the symbol of cowardice. Now, don't get me wrong, they love looting and brawling more than anything else, but at least they do it without shame. You are goblins, then. A filthy, mismatched group from a long line of goblin folk who have settled for centuries in an intricate network of tunnels and ancient architectures. Over time, your kind has learned to coexist with the other creatures around you, to govern itself, to fortify and defend which your people have learned to call home. As with any underground stronghold worth its salt, the inner chambers have filled with treasures over the centuries, from trinkets and coins to magical artifacts and ancient relics. One relic in particular, the Hand of Petar, has been revered for generations as the protector of the tribe. Commanding your green heads is a goblin of unprecedented charisma known as the Marquise. Her natural leadership is such that even some orc clans have sworn fealty to her, an event almost unheard of, as goblins usually bow to anyone who intimidates them. All right, so we're getting a little bit of character, a little bit of world building here. Brian says they like the contrast when the world is mostly human, and then when you encounter something different, it feels exotic. Yes, I think that's probably a better way of saying what I was trying to say. Yes, you can play with that sort of the exoticism of those things, and the otherness and the strangeness. Now it's really different from us. And you can't do it perfectly as a human because we're humans and we're going to put things in kind of human terms. But I think it's easier to present that in a coherent way. And you don't have to worry about trying to either make sure if a character is playing an elf, or make sure if a player is playing an elf that they're playing it the way your elves are, whatever. I think if you're going to have a lot of those, I think it's easier to stick with kind of archetypes that are easy for everybody to grasp and understand, whereas sometimes it's great to just delve into like, what if they are really weird and strange and really unlike us? And then I think the human-only kind of campaigns let you sort of delve into that at least more easily than if you're having a bunch of people. Plus that contrast between, say, humankind and the Fae or whatever, it's more pronounced. Goblin traits and abilities. Goblins are small, selfish, and cowardly creatures. Years of living in their tunnels have caused them to adapt to seeing in the dark. Similarly, they are sensitive to sunlight. Their society is tribal and tied to underground cults. It's rare to find a quote-unquote learned goblin, but recently they've started to speak, though rarely read the common tongue. Among goblins, this has almost become a status symbol. Help! Goblins! The bad reputation of goblins almost always precedes them. While adventurers deep underground may see them as little more than pests, to many surface dwellers they are sneaky and dangerous monsters. Goblin tales haunt children's nightmares and fuel tavern legends. Because of this, most reactions to your sordid little group will range from fear or hostility to, at best, suspicion or curiosity. Players oops, I guess there's two wills there. Players will take on the role of full-fledged fugitive monsters, and revealing themselves might spark reactions that are hard to handle. All right, so we got a little reaction table here, which is cool. It's only a D6, so they've put down the 2D6 for D6. There's only, it looks like a couple of options. 1 to 2, terrified at the sight of the goblins. 3 to 4, curious yet suspicious. And then 5 to 6, horrified. We'll try to take them down. So it's basically terrified, curious, or horrified. Equal chances of each, but none of them are particular. there's no like friendly and like want to be allies. No, it's you're probably your best bet. Well, I guess it depends on your goal. It might be if they're terrified of you, great, because they'll probably run away, but then they might want to kill you. I suppose curious yet suspicious might be the best you can hope for there. Hey, Ian. Hard anti-goblin propaganda going on. Yeah, I guess. I think they're trying to set the stage, because remember, in this, we're playing as the goblins. So I think they're setting us up, which is really an intriguing idea. You know, forgetting everything else, just the fact that you're playing this outsider group. You know, normally in the game, you're playing the kind of the main group or the center, right? Or whatever, civilization or humanity or whatever, goodness, and they get kind of everything else is sort of outside. Now you are clearly playing like, no, you are outside the system, or you are in this little system that you are in the outsider. You are the other, and that's why you don't get any good reactions. Nobody's looking forward to seeing you, which kind of makes sense. I mean, in your ye old sort of standard D&D game, if you're in a village, or you know you're a villager and you see goblins coming towards you, you're probably picking one of those three things. That makes sense. You're not thinking like, oh, cute goblins. You're probably terrified. Maybe you're curious because you're like, I've never seen goblins out here, but you're still probably running to get a weapon or running to go tell the watch or locking your doors. Or yeah, you're horrified. So I get it. So okay, so we have on our characters, we've got a random goblin class. Man, I have to say, I do not like this. This lime green on the white is not good for the contrast. Right, so it seems like that reaction table would work for Murder Hobo too. Yeah, if you, I totally would. If you were playing where your characters were basically non-repentant, just out and out murder hobos, like they're literally, you were playing as thieves or bandits or some kind of brigand, then yeah, that would also work. Absolutely. All right, so our random classes are, we have 6 of them, and again, it's just a flat D6 roll. You can be a skullcracker, a scoundrel, a shaman, a wolf rider, a scroll keeper, or an alchemist. I really like this sort of, I don't know what we call it, the pixel art kind of style. I swear I had a game where it was very much the same, almost feels like the same kind of characters. It was an iPhone game, and I don't remember exactly, but it had a lot of these cute characters. I really like the style. Okay, so first up, we got the Skullcracker. I've got my head sorted out. It's in the pile with the others. Ha ha! Not all goblins are fragile and cowardly. Some find more satisfaction in breaking bones than in setting traps or hiding in the shadows. Typically used as guards, the Skullcrackers are a blunt and violent unit who have turned ignorance into a way of life. They can use all weapons. They've got a D8 hit die. They can use their weapons, an iron two-handed axe. They're wearing rusty chainmail armor and a tin helmet. You can't even get an iron helmet. It's got to be tin. They've got a necklace made of human ears, rusty handcuffs, and an adorable little doll. And I guess they're kind of one. It seems like, I'm guessing just looking at this as a template, so we're going to get, a hit die value, some weapon, armor type things, some stuff, and then I guess a class feature. And the Skullcracker's class feature is on a critical hit, they can spread the damage across multiple melee opponents. That's nice. Called Here and There. That's a clever one. I like that. It works on critical hits, so you're going to have to you're not going to get to pick your, I guess you can look at two ways. On the one hand, you're not going to be able to pick your spot, but you never have to spend anything to do it. And if you get a crit, then you get to do something a little bit different. I like it. Ian says ethically sourced human ears, of course. Oh yes, absolutely, and I'm sure they're all organic too. Gluten-free, organic human ears. Okay, the goblin free-range human ears. I would add. The scoundrel, you've got to take things lightly, especially other people's things. Nice. They can use all one-handed weapons, bows, cloth, and leather armor. They've got a D6 hit die. They've got a dagger and a primitive bow. They've got leather armor and a tattered cloak. They've got some lockpicks, some rope, and a figurine. And they've got the sneak attack feature. If a goblin scoundrel successfully sneaks behind a creature, they can perform a sneak attack, dealing double damage. We got the goblin shaman. True beauty's on the inside. That's why I have to open you up. These little quotes are great. True beauty's on the inside. That's why I have to open you up. Oh, I like that. That's a good one. Okay, they can use bludgeoning weapons, leather and chain armor, helmets and shields. Basically, they're cleric, right? D6 hit die. They've got a club. They've got some leather and animal bone armor. They have a goat skull helmet and a turtle shell shield. There's a little tongue twister for you. They've got access to healer class spells. Whatever spells are in the healer class of the chosen game system. Because I should mention this is supposed to be basically your sort of generic OSR system agnostic kind of thing. So we're not getting lots of stats here. So here, they're not, because different systems tend to name spells differently, and they're not telling us the spells. They're just gonna say check the healer class of whatever game system. Probably could have said cleric. I don't know if I suppose there's a game out there that might have a healer and a cleric, or a healer instead of a cleric, but I might have just said, just go with cleric. Belongings, they got a ritual tablet with inscriptions, which equate to 2 first level spells. They have a pouch of sharp teeth and a skull-made goblet. And their feature they have is divination. Once per day, the goblin shaman can perform a divination ritual on the entrails of a creature to attempt to gain knowledge, or in some cases, even spells. So extremely open-ended. I would definitely have them to have to do the whole entrails of a creature. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is I would not just hand wave that they have entrails with them all the time. It's like, no, you're gonna have to get some, because this is a pretty open-ended kind of spell. But I like it, and they can only do it once a day. It is something to note, though. It's not turn undead. I don't know if there's undead are featured in this, but they don't get it. Ian, this is I hadn't actually said this is not OSC based. As far as I know, it's not based on any particular system. It is just generically OSR system agnostic, I think. And in fact, even in drive-through, the game comes up as, let's see if I click on that. It comes up as any system agnostic. What does it say? Any system agnostic OSR. So they're not, no particular system. So I think they're keeping things very, very vague and generic. We've got wolf riders. They can use, let's see, one-handed weapons, bows, cloth on their armor. I'm guessing this is kind of a rangery type thing, maybe. I only get a D4 hit die, which is interesting. They've got bows and arrows and a chipped hatchet, leather armor. They've got a small bell, metal marbles, and some string. Their feature is a wolf companion, always accompanied by a loyal wolf. If ridden, it grants increased movement speed. The wolf can assist in combat, but needs to be fed and calmed if something triggers its aggression. Each time the wolf rider levels up, roll a new HD for the wolf's hit points. That's cool. Yes, Ian says he likes the sprite art. Looks like it came straight out of Hyper Light Drifter. I don't know Hyper Light Drifter, but yeah, the sprite art, what I was calling pixel art, yeah, it's cool. It's nice. And they have a scroll keeper. Oh, I forgot the Wolf Rider's quote. If it's acting up, it's just hungry. And then we have the scroll keeper. It was already like this when I got here. As I guess is your wizard type. Cloth armor. It can use cloth armor, staves, and daggers. Got D4 hit dice. Interesting that the Wolf Rider and I would have maybe given the Wolf Rider some more hit dice, but it does hit points, but it does have the companion. They also have a ritual dagger and a ritual cloth robe. They can access spells through scrolls. If reading fails, it must roll on the mishap table. If successful, the words on the scroll disappear. Interesting. So they can't cast spells directly. They have to use scrolls. And they've got a scroll pouch with 2 first-level scrolls. They have magnifying glass, a stuffed rat that contains a large firecracker. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting note. And their feature is secondhand magic. Once per day, the goblin can attempt to mimic a spell it witnessed in the last 24 hours with a 2 in 6 chance of success. If it fails, it rolls on the mishap table. And then we have a mishap table, which is D100. I'm not going to read all these, but we got you turn into an old lady. You have a vision of something happening elsewhere. You get total amnesia, or a third eye appears, allowing you to see the invisible. So some of them are good. Oh, okay, Brian Smith, you sent me that link. Cool, I will post it. And then we have the alchemist. Mixing is bad, they say, so I mixed it well. They could use all one-handed weapons, bows, and cloth armor. They also have D4 hit dice. Their weapon is an iron stoker. They have some ragged cloth armor and a worn fez. Aw, nice fez. Oh, there it is. They have a bag containing 1 red vial, 1 blue vial, 1 purple vial, and 2 empty vials. A small box with a spring-loaded monkey head. Oh, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, but I like it. And their feature is mixologist. The goblin alchemist can use the vials in their possession or attempt to mix new concoctions, and they have a table. So the vials, the red vial is a liquid that explodes on impact, setting anything flammable ablaze within a 10-foot radius of the explosion. The purple vial heals, but is unstable. The alchemist must make an appropriate check once the liquid is administered to determine if it was prepared correctly. On a failed check, the vial will cause harm instead of healing. Ew. And then finally, the blue vial brings small inanimate objects to life for a few minutes, after which they melt away irreparably. All right. And then it says here, the goblin alchemist can combine 2 or more reagents in their vials or similar containers. The player rolls a d6 for each reagent. And then it says parenthetically 2d6 at the narrator's discretion for particularly dangerous or unstable reagents. The resulting total corresponds to the outcome on the concoction table. Any result over 18 yields an inert liquid on even numbers, or a small explosion, 1d6 damage within a 10-foot radius, on odd numbers. Yeah, it might be a small explosion, but that'll kill, could really kill outright anybody, but especially the wolf riders and I suppose the alchemists themselves and the scroll readers, because they only have starting with D4 hit points. It's a tough beat. So let's see, each reagent, you roll 2 or more reagents, you roll 1d6 for each. So here we have the concoction table. The lowest levels are the formula is unstable, exploding for 2d6 damage. Then when you get to level 7, you get a flesh-colored liquid with roasted smell, halves the drinker's strength. And then let's see, up to, say, 14. A black liquid with a nauseating odor that spreads for tens of meters. If ingested, it halves the drinker's hit points. And then finally, 18. A white liquid with the scent of dried leaves that has the power to bring someone back from death. So interestingly enough, I'm guessing, it seems like you roll this. The better you do on the table, I think the better results are towards the top end. But then, of course, if you go over 18, you get nothing. So it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit of it's like another one of these kind of risk-reward systems. Do you hope you're going to roll high dice by, say, going with 2 reagents, and maybe you hope that you get a 10 or a 12, between a 10 or a 12, which would be the red, purple, or blue liquids, which would be great? Or do you add a bunch, hoping to get close to, but not get over 18? Brian says, would be fun if they always kind of warped common spells as they read them from the scrolls. Yeah, that would be. I mean, yes, I think there's a lot of. I think it's always that. There's always that push and pull, right? Like, yeah, you could do all this stuff with the system, but then of course you need to write all that out. So if you were going to have all these kind of goblin versions of spells or some reaction with the scrolls, like you got to write up a mechanic for that. I think I would be fine with, if you felt that way, just doing that at the table. It is a great idea, and I think if I was playing that, like, yeah, it might be fun to take your just D&D spells, but then it's the goblin reason they kind of get goblinated in some way, whatever goblinated might mean. But it's always that balance when you're like, yeah, that's really cool, but then you got to write it out. And the more mechanics you're writing out, the less to write all the spells out. I suppose you could write them with no or very few mechanics, but you just become less and less agnostic, or it becomes harder and harder to remain agnostic. Brian also says, love the creative freedom you could feel when it's just goblins. Yes, I mean, and that's kind of I think that's something that people miss oftentimes with having hey, it's only one. You don't have that choice of playing 80 different species. You're just playing this one. because you can really delve into there. Obviously, with humans, it feels less different. You know, the creativity may not feel as much because we're humans, so like we're in there all the time. But certainly, you know, I played a game once where we were basically the first dwarves, and that was the game. Like we were the, I don't know, five or however many of us were playing, five or six, you know, fathers of the dwarves that just awakened somewhere in some cavern, and it was all about exploring and doing those things. It was basically about, essentially, we were enacting through our play the creation story of the dwarves, and that was really neat. And yeah, you could do all kinds of stuff with that because you just have dwarves. You don't have to worry about, well, what do the centaurs do? It's like, it doesn't matter. We're not playing the centaurs, we're playing dwarves, and that's something you can do when you really focus in on a particular, you know, type. Let's see. So we have the goblin next door, which it's interesting. Says there are goblins who can read magic, goblins devoted to combat, specialized in alchemy or scouting, and then there are goblins who are simply goblins. Okay. So basically, they can use any weapon or armor. They have D6 hit points. They've got a rusty short sword, cloth armor, and they've got a battered rope, a jar of running fish heads, flint, and a tinder. And they have no special features. So if you just want to play a goblin, you don't want to play one of those specialty goblins, you can basically play, you know, generic goblin. So on this page, and I really like, you know, this is really, I really like the simple layout. Nothing fancy going on here. So we have what happened. The worst thing that can happen to those who live underground is rumors of treasure spreading. Stories of accumulated wealth in the tunnels and legendary artifacts have lured groups of adventurers for decades. Heroes, purifiers, brave warriors, according to them. But to goblins, they're just more raiders. Rarely, though, have they proven a true threat, often ending their quests or their lives caught in traps or ambushes. This was true until recently, when a particularly fierce group of 4 adventurers stormed the caves in search of treasure and relics, leaving a bloody trail in their wake. The last memory the protagonists of this story have is the sight of fallen goblins, of the Marquise fatally wounded by a warrior in gleaming armor with lion head engravings, and of two more adventurers, an elf draped in raven feather collar, and a dwarf in noisy chainmail, intent on carrying away the hand of Patar from its alcove, likely unaware of the consequences. "This will curse us all," was the last shout from the goblins before they noticed yet another presence behind them. Suddenly, darkness. What will happen? The goblins awaken naked and unarmed, locked in a cage alongside a skeleton, dangling in the experiment room. They don't know where they are or how to escape, but they know one thing. If they want to survive, they must find the hand of Patar and return it to its place before the curse takes hold of them and everything around them. The goblins are deep in the dungeons of the manor where the adventurers live, and their one purpose and only hope is to recover the relic located in the Hall of Wonders on the upper floor. Their equipment is scattered throughout the dungeon, and the manor contains many rooms filled with treasures, items, weapons, armor, encounters, and confrontations. It is up to the players to decide how much time is worth spending and on what. Time is short, and the curse looms. In some ways, this is kind of similar to my setup for my starter adventure, where you start in the basement and you don't have any kit. So pretty interesting. I have a sort of a different clock. It's not a curse levied on you, and of course, you're not playing as goblins. Magnus, it is available on drive-through, and the link should be in the show notes in the description. I'll probably pin a comment to the top with it also, because I know some folks don't only check the comments and not the descriptions. All right, so we have the manor. The manor spans 2 floors plus the dungeons. There are various ways to move up and down. Besides the usual stairs and more conventional passages, the narrator may consider that the chimneys can be used as routes if extinguished. Oh, clever. Similarly, the primitive drainage channels between bathrooms can be navigated, leading down to the sewers. The 2 main escape routes from the manor are to the surface through the main door on the ground floor, though it's guarded by a halberdier, or through the balcony on the upper floor, and underground via the passage leading to the sewers in the dungeon. If the curse takes hold, see page 12, the windows will become gaping maws intent on devouring anyone who dares pass through. Woohoo! All right. The Hand. The Hand of Patar is an ancient and powerful artifact. It appears as an open, shriveled hand mummified over millennia and revered by various subterranean lineages. If removed from its alcove, it unleashes a nearly unstoppable curse that warps places and people, leading to madness and death. What's a little madness between friends? The hand holds great power that can be harnessed in various ways by folding its fingers in specific positions The narrator may hide clues about this in the books and documents scattered throughout the manor. Oh, interesting. And again, I love the sprite or pixel art. So if you kind of rock and roll symbol, shoots out almost unbreakable spider webs. Oh, they're going for a Spider-Man thing, I guess. Walls, like also, we'll see, you can ignite walls. Walls, hold on a minute. Walls ignite. Maybe that's more the rock and roll. No, it's thumbs usually out for that. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, maybe, whatever. Walls ignite to infernal choirs, and a strong earthquake shakes the area. You might also calm anyone in front, making them friendly towards the wielder. Might be able to revive the dead, but not those that are already undead. You can grant a bonus advantage on any skill check attempted by the player. You might have allow for telepathic communication. You might be able to basically launch a lightning bolt or point to the nearest exit or whatever it's asked to find. Oh, curious. So this thing is a super, super strong. It's got a lot of abilities in there. I think the lightning bolt is the middle finger one. I believe, Brian Smith, that this one down here in the bottom middle strikes me as the middle finger. That would be your lightning bolt. All right, so we got the artifact. So we know, so they have very clear goals, which is, they have to obviously get out of their cells. There's no point in escaping without the artifact. So you got to get the artifact and then figure out how to get out before the curse takes hold. And so we got to talk about the curse. The adventure unfolds in 3 phases. First is the curse is unawakened. Each in-game hour, there's a 1 in 6 chance of activation, which then moves to phase 2. So once you roll that, then you get, and each game hour, so at most, remember, so we're talking, if we're going, well, I guess it's agnostic, so it's not saying, but if we take the kind of exploration turns or 10 minutes, so you're going to have 6 of those. So there's a fairly good chance over the course of an hour that you'll roll at least 1 6, though you might not. But then the second phase is the curse is triggered, and this time you're rolling a 3d6, and you're looking for triple 6s. And if you get triple 6s, the universe is annihilated. Yeah, ouch. Okay. So what are we talking about? The odds of rolling a triple 6 are not good, but of course, it happens. But, generally speaking, you're going to be spending the most of your time probably in that phase 2. Or suppose you could get something, you could be lucky in a sense and not roll 6s. Goodness knows, playing in OD&D where I'm rolling a bunch of 6-sided dice, I've gone through some bad stretches where I'm rolling a bunch of dice and I'm still not getting 6s. All right, so let's see what else we have to do about the curse. So once the curse of the Hand of Patar begins, which is phase 2, the characters will start to experience its physical effects. The mutations listed here are, again, just suggestions, intentionally open to interpretation and the creativity of both the narrator and the players. Each curse is designed to offer an intriguing opportunity as well as side effects. But the curse doesn't stop at physical mutations. It will bring strange and sinister changes to the entire manor, altering every room and affecting most events. The sky around the building will turn a stormy scarlet. Doors, walls, and floors will twist into bizarre shapes, and if something can go wrong, it likely will. This is the moment for players to get moving. The curse is in full force, and the goblins know that if the hand isn't returned to its place, it will be the end. Their clock is ticking. So it seems to me that what it's giving you is, I think they're assuming the law of averages says you'll have about an hour, in-game hour, to futz around before you trigger the curse. You might have more, you might have less. You could roll a 6 in after 1 turn, something's going on. But I think it's an interesting kind of balance. Like, hey, the party's gonna get up in the cells and they're gonna be able to kind of muck around a little bit, and then bam, you're gonna roll that 6, and now all kinds of stuff's gonna start happening, and that is the party's trigger to, like, okay, we gotta get to business, right? So the character curses is a D12 table. Brian says a little Waking of Willoughby Hall-ish. Yeah, I think a lot of things. And like I said, it's interesting because I'm still going through and editing and revising kind of my adventure. So it's interesting to read this kind of different take on sort of a similar idea. Though, in my adventure, they don't have a goal other than to, escape. And I think I mentioned when I ran it, one of the players was clearly looking for, like, thinking the goal, like, we could stop it. right? And in my case, my owner's like, no, you really just trying to get out. But this one's very much more explicit, which I think actually helps it in some ways. I think it can help. I think depending on when I run mine, depending on the group, you might get people who are confused as to what they're supposed to do with the situation. When I ran it the first time at Claricon, people were like, "Oh yeah, we just need to get out." And then the second one, someone was like, "Hey, we got to try to save the day." And then it was like, "No, can't." This one, I think, which is a good thing for it, is more, or at least it's makes it a little bit easier, is that the players will have a very good idea of exactly what they have to do, right? 'Cause they have to find the hand and then get out. Or with mine, it's a bit more. I'm not explicit with what your goal should be. So here are the curses. So we got D12 table, and it looks like it's just a flat roll. So we have legs are replaced with tentacles, which does allow you to walk on walls, but you move very slowly. Your body is covered in spikes, which means you deal damage when attacked, but you can't wear armor. You're basically your body turns to undead. You become undead essentially. You become immune to charm and poison, but you can't be healed. You gain elephant ears, which greatly improves your hearing, but helmets can't be worn and loud noises cause discomfort. Your eyes on your palms. You gain eyes on your palms. The eyes on your palms can swivel, but are blind when holding an object. Does that mean that you're blind when holding an object, or you just can't use those extra eyes when you're holding an object? I almost think it might hurt. If you're holding something in your hand and your eye was there, I feel like that would be painful. You might have rubber limbs, so your limbs can stretch up to 20 feet, but are weaker than normal limbs. You might become an orc. You gain the size and strength of an orc, but any armor becomes unusable, or anything you're wearing, you basically break out of your whatever armor you're wearing. You get a bouncing butt, landing without damage, but creates very loud flatulence. Oh boy, some people are going to have a lot of fun with that one. You get silver jaws, razor sharp silver fangs, but speech becomes nearly unintelligible. I'm guessing you basically gain a bite attack, I would imagine. You might become a child. You transform into a beautiful child. You're adorable, but often feels the urge to burst into tears. Or your body might become magnetic. You pull nearby metals, though this comes with its own risks. Obviously, if you have a sword, you pull it towards you. You better make sure it's hilt first. And then you might get a tree form. Your body becomes made of branches and climbing roots. It's flexible, but highly flammable. Living trees are not all that flammable, but I get it. All right, and now we have the heroes, which basically are the monsters, right? To every hero, they're monster. To every monster, they're hero. So we have Ingmar Roderickson. Those who find no elegance in war may have never seen blood dance. Oh, that's true. Ooh, he's got a weapon called Pandemonium, a black metal two-handed sword with a lion-headed hilt inlaid with amethyst eyes. And their feature are they can swing the greatsword in a wide arc, spreading damage among nearby enemies. Oh, interesting. And then if cursed, so wait a minute, hold on a minute. If cursed, is there something I missed about how they get cursed? Once the cursed, okay, it doesn't say. I would have thought that. Okay, so my impression was that the player characters will all get cursed when we go to phase 2, but I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Because now we're saying if Ingmar's cursed, I don't know. I guess, what is the curse? Ingmar's head transforms into that of a toad. He can no longer wear a helmet, but can use his tongue to pull distant enemies closer for melee attacks. Maybe this is just when. I almost would think of it first before they said when cursed. Just so that it's if. I mean, maybe we'll have to read further, but I felt like I thought my impression was that when the curse hits phase 2, everybody picks up a curse. So I guess that's how. Unless we read anything to the that says otherwise, that's what I'm going to assume, I guess. Where it says these are great and solid pros cons. Yep, they're all fun, but definitely have a weakness. We have Melania George. She's got a short sword named Scratch and a silver bow with leafy motifs. Her feature is she can throw smoke bombs to vanish into shadows, allowing her to strike enemies from behind. And if cursed, her body is covered in thick, dark fur, and long claws extend from her fingers, enabling her to perform a double attack. We have Grown Sacred Spire. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't read the quote from... Oh, Milani doesn't have a quote. Okay. Well, there you go. She's silent but deadly. Growan Sacred Spire. Saint Karen of the Thorn Collar, hear my plea, patron of the three moons. Free me from this tedium. So I guess he's kind of a cleric type. Got a silver spiked mace. And he has a breviary that contains prayers and spells. He's got healing, blessing, silence, and cure disease. I think you'll be able to find these in pretty much all your standard spell lists. Feature as a good cleric, Growan has the ability to repel undead. Okay, so he can repel undead. And you might get a curse that makes you undead, so that's no small advantage. If cursed, let's see, Growan gains a third eye, drives him to madness, yet it grants him the ability to see through illusions and invisibility. Does that come up? That any of the characters going to have illusions or invisibility? Celine Ladell, books are better than people. They're quiet, interesting, honest even when they hurt, and they generally smell better. Well, there you go. She's got a mahogany staff, and she's usually got charm, magic missile, invisibility, and hold person. Oh man, giving her charm, that's a toughie for some goblins. She's got some robes. She's resistant to elemental magic, and if cursed, her body becomes covered in foul-smelling pustules, granting her an advantage against physical attacks due to the repulsive odor, but diminishing the effectiveness of her charm and invisibility spells. Which I guess would mean maybe we'd add a saving throw to it. That's the one thing when you're trying to be really generic, you just kind of have to, you might want to know as a GM, well, what does that mean? You're just going to have to come up with it. Like, minus, or whatever. You get a positive couple of points bonus to your saving throw because she stinks. Or she's got all kinds of pustules, which I guess do stink. Okay, so we have some random events. The manor is a living place teeming with diverse encounters and situations. It has its own history and habits. To further bring this environment to life, the narrator can roll a d12 on the random events table. Events vary depending on whether or not the curse is in full effect. So we have a d12 table of pre-curse events, and I'm guessing we're going to have a d12 table of curse events. So one of the pre-curse events is an elderly man completely naked looks around, locks eyes with the characters, and gestures for silence with his finger before darting off. Okay? You might have a dead rat with a trail of blood around it forming a smile. That's interesting. Let's see, on 12, a gray cat in a dragon costume stares at the characters. If fed, it will follow them everywhere. If attacked, it will cast Fireball. The cat has 1 hit point and will avoid fighting. So these are really... really random. Hold on, I think this one didn't make the... Oops, I think this one didn't make the transition from Italian to English. 1d4 guardie appoggiate al muro intente a fumare alcune erbe profumate. I think it's something to do with some guards. They want to smoke. They're something. Does anyone... What's my Italian like? Well, my Italian is non-existent. I almost think it's harder to see this because of that again, the lime green on the white makes it hard to see. I could easily see missing that. I'll have to make a note so I can send it along so they could fix that translation error. I suppose I could put it into what would Google translate? Where is Google Translate when you need it? Let's see. What do we got here? All right, translate quote. Come on. How do I get a translation? DuckDuckGo, what are you doing to me? All right, let's try this. Translate Italian. Yeah, translate Italian to English. Yes, Italian. Enter text. Okay, here it is. Guards leaning against the wall, intent on smoking some fragrant herbs. Okay, there we go. I want some of the herb. All right, those are the pre-curse events. On to the post-curse events. A rain of blood, faint at first, then pouring heavily, falls from the ceiling for a couple of minutes. The beast, formerly imprisoned in the dungeons, now free and standing in front of the characters. 2 guards caught in hysteria are sprinting wildly. For a moment, each character has a vision of their own death. I wonder what that would look like. And then let's see. They know they've escaped. Once the goblins start moving through the manor corridors, it won't take long for the guards to realize they've escaped. This will lead to increased patrols, with the goblins being actively hunted. At the narrator's discretion, it's possible to make a roll and see if the guards track down the characters. 1 in 6 chance. 2 in 6 of the goblins haven't covered their tracks. I'm curious what covering your tracks would consist of, but it just gives your players an opportunity to do something, and there is a built-in reward for it. But I'm kind of curious as what that would be. A standard patrol consists of 2 guards, but can go up to 6, including captains. The type of patrol is left to the game master's discretion. The suggestion is to intensify it as time passes, or as the goblins make their presence felt in the manor. The guards also protect and patrol the manor's exterior. 2 halberdiers stand at the main gate, and there's a 2 in 6 chance of encountering a patrol surveying the perimeter. All right. And then we get to the dungeons. I really love these. I really dig the art style. Super, super nice. Okay. The damp, dark, and dangerous, the manor's dungeons are where the adventure begins. From salted meats to prisoners, treasures to horrors, many things are kept under lock and key in this area. Here, our unfortunate goblins must break free from captivity and begin to find their bearings. Excuse me. So the squares are 5 feet. The legend, I mean, the one thing that's really nice about this style is it's very easy to tell items. Kind of, the iconography is very clear. So we have the chest is loot or useful items. The light bulb is a puzzle. The scroll is a clue. We've got stairs, and I guess they're marked whether they go up or down. So I that's cool. So you have stairs. These are going up, so it's got that up arrow. Hostile creatures are with a skull. A game is with looks like a playing card kind of icon. A secret door is an S surrounded by parens. A hidden detail has an eyeball. An encounter has a speech bubble. Then an up arrows going up. Probably not going to read all of these. Oh, and I like that it's not only on the map, which is nice, but also the rooms themselves. So we get the interrogation chamber, which you see right offhand has loot or an item and a monster or hostile creature. So we get for the interrogation chamber, it says starting room, where a hooded man, Thanal Pento, interrogates prisoners. Some goblin belongings can be found here. So we get really kind of just concise thing. It's everything else. So I think the one thing with this is given, and maybe there'll be monster stat blocks, I should say, but we noticed that even with those heroes, we didn't really get much of a stat block. We just got kind of just a generic list of equipment. We don't even get hit dice. We're not even really told. I don't think we're told how many hit dice the various things are. Here we're not getting any. I know in it's like I'm going to keep comparing to like what I tried to do in my adventure was give generic stat blocks, but kind of following sort of a BX OSE abbreviated stat entry. So I would say, normal man, 1 HD, 2 HD kind of thing. I'm curious if they'll do that. So I would probably just myself, I'd look at this guy and say, okay, he's just a hooded guy. He's not one of the heroes. So I would probably just say normal man, but it might be nice to know. And I think you can, I guess, depending on your system, you can really get a lot. If I just list down, you've got 1 HD, you've got some kind of weapon, and, that's it, then I can run that creature because 1 HD will basically tell me more or less, or say normal man or 1 HD or like 1 level fighter or normal man, let's say, then, and if you look in BX, you can see the tables and they'll say, oh, normal man, or you can grab ordinary person stats from your book of choice and go. I think I would have liked if I had anything there, but I have to say, it is kind of really, I can appreciate the very, very, look how just tight and concise these entries are. Maybe somebody, having not played it, maybe some of them might use some more. I'm kind of curious to see one that's got some of the hidden things to see how they do it. But look how many rooms he's got on one page, and all very nice and neatly laid out. I guess the thing, they don't feel, it's not a bunch of bullets and things like that. It has a nice look to it. Okay, let's go down to one of these discuss. So this one's got a bunch of stuff going on. The experiment room. In this room, an individual named Edgar conducts experiments and oddities that the heroes bring back from their expeditions. Yeah, so maybe I would say you're going to have to, as your GM, you're really going to have to go through and probably add some bits to it. Because I imagine people are going to ask, well, what experiments? And like, I don't know. Or we don't even know what kind of oddities. What is it like? What is he doing? because we don't have any, right, in this room. We're not giving even any. Well, what kind of room is it? Is it one like an alchemist lab? Is it full of cauldrons and bubbling things, or is it some kind of like a dissection kind of room with creatures on tables that have been there, going through some kind of biopsies and autopsies and things like that? Well, what are we talking about here? Are there cages? Is it, what's going on? Is it, full of glass jars with things floating in it? So I think for some of these, I can imagine it would be nice to have more detail. That way you can fill these in a little bit. I just think it's an interesting idea that you're just giving such really brief descriptions, which again gives it a really nice, clean, neat little look. But it does mean that you're gonna have to come in and fill some of that out, because I would say there's probably not enough in here for me to answer the most obvious questions without having to think of something myself, and really think about it. Right, experiment room doesn't give me enough to kind of know. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Probably not, right? It's kind of like the set dressing. But if you like having that set dressing to kind of put you in the moment, which, I mean, I do, then you're going to have to probably spend some prep time adding some of those details. Brian asks, you roll on a treasure table to populate the oddities in that chest icon? That's another good question, right? We don't have any idea. I haven't seen yet, Brian. Let's go find it. That's a good... Oh. Well, I may have spoken too soon. So it seems like these might be just summaries, and now we're getting the details? Oh, well, that changes everything. See, look at that. I didn't read far enough. Okay, so this is just... So it seems like these are just summaries. Phew. All right, so that's good. So now we get more detail. But maybe just for this one. Oh, we do get... There we go. So then we get for Thal Pento, 1 HD. You can stab... Got cloth robe, has 1 spell, and then it's got some... Oh, okay. Well, this changes everything. Well, never mind then. So now it makes me wonder, well, why is this... Makes this page kind of feel like I don't need it. Huh. It's interesting, because now I'm looking at this. I was thinking originally, like, okay, this is the cells, and it's an interesting approach, but it's got some drawback. Now it's like, okay, it's just a summary. And now the next one, and now we're gonna have all section with all the individual rooms. So I wonder what that's envisioned for. I suppose you could print this out next to your map, and so you have it. But I'm always gonna want to reference the full description, so I'm not sure. So let's see where we go back to that one that had a table in it. We've actually got. Now we have more notes. Brian says they like it as a quick reference, so they go in one, then read the individual. Ah, it's true. I suppose you can do it that way. I would just think that, I don't know. It's, I think in a different kind of, so if I was running this setup and everything was really dynamic, then this kind of thing where I might be like if I want to track Thal Pento and he starts in this room, but it might be moving around or something, then something like this where I could kind of track some of that stuff would be good. For myself, I can't see really using this one because I have all the icons are on the map itself. So if I want to look at, what's that one, which is here, I already got the icons. And then if I really need to know more, I'm going to probably want to come down to this one. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just funny because, it's one of the issues when you're reading something kind of as you come up in pages and I'm not familiar with it before is just get the wrong idea. So I totally had the wrong idea there, but that's fine because this is better. It is better that we get both the details. So one of the things, I'm not going to read through all the rooms. I like that we have kind of bolded, though I don't love this font. Not the font, sorry. I like the font a lot. The color I don't love, but we have, the call outs to the cages in the ceiling, the torture rack, the hooded man. There's a locked chest. This was something that I avoided in my adventures because I felt it's a little bit too cliche. Though it kind of makes sense in this that if you drag them here unconscious and then you drop them to cells, I could see having putting their what do you do with their stuff? Yeah, throw in the chest. So it actually doesn't not make sense, but it's funny. I wanted to avoid them. Brian says you could cross them off from the reference too for what they've looted or something. Yeah, it's true. Though again, I probably would just do that from the map, right? I think the map has all this so nicely that I don't know that I need another page with a little bit more. But that's my the nice thing is hey, you have both tools, so you can run the dungeon if it makes sense, and you like to run the dungeon with summary, great, and I like to run the dungeon with the details, great. You have both, so there's no wrong answer. All right, so we have some bullet points. So now, if it's cursed, what remains of the skeleton in the cage will spring to life, though all it does is complain, and the chains with the shackles on the wall will animate like snakes, trying to grab the limbs of anyone who comes close. And then we got Thal Pento there. And again, we get really these nice. I really like these, and there are also some paper minis that you could print out for these, and I think they feature the same art, which is great. So here in the experiment room, we get a lot more detail. So a large hall with operating tables arranged around the room, displaying monstrous remains sewn together from parts of other creatures. 4 cylindrical tanks, each filled with different liquids, stands along the walls. Faucets at their base allow access to the contents. On the table lie scalpels, saws, and engraving tools, usable by a scoundrel as lock-picking tools. Shelves hold small taxidermied creatures, heads preserved in jars of formaldehyde, and a few notes. See, this is a really good description. Excellent. Excelente. And I like that they're all, you could you might say, if you wanted to be critical, like I could use a little bit more of some of the other senses, because we're getting mostly just your sight stuff, but still, it's a really good description. Gives me everything that I can then use. It's really kind of, I think it's just about as well as what you could ask for. If cursed, the heads in the jars become sentient. The patchwork bodies will spring to life and attack anything in their path. So we get Edgar, we get the reanimated orc, and we get a zombie. And we get some notes about the liquids in the tanks. Ooh, a black widow spider, a lizard man, a brigante. Is his name Brigante, or is that another? Would that be brigand in Italian? Poor Brigante, not doing too well. He's missing a shirt. Yep, brigand. Okay. If cursed, the cages won't. So we're in this area of the cells. If cursed, the cages won't lock. The creatures inside will be seized by violent fury. I like the different. I think they've done a nice job here with, you've got these curses, or the curse that's going to change the rooms. To me, they've done a nice job that the things that are changing in the rooms are, it's easy to note. If you go back into a room and it's been cursed, you got this nice big call out with what the cursed thing is. And they don't seem really complicated. Sometimes I think they have all these things where you're trying to do all these different effects and it can get really complicated. I feel like these are simple enough. I don't really have to keep track of them outside of the rooms. You probably could for extra credit. You're like, oh, okay, if the cells, the creatures in the cells have gone mad after the curse, do they then spill out into the dungeon? Maybe. But it's nice that I can really just read that. I might actually want to move it up. But I don't know some of these. I guess the assumption is probably that you've been through some of these by the time the curse hits. Those, of course, is going to depend on timing and how efficient the party is. Closet storage. If cursed, all the dungeon rats are drawn to this room, numbering in the hundreds. Standing near the door, one can hear their squeaking. Anyone who opens the door will be swarmed by rats. If they fail to dodge quickly enough, they'll take 1d4 damage before the rats scatter en masse towards the sewers. Oh. I think actually I'd like to do more of this. I like the idea you can hear the squeaking, but like it would be cool if they were actually, you could hear, like they were becoming like mega rat or something, like they were joining together in some kind of amalgam, like a rat king, but it's, that's a real rat entity, multi-rat entity. So the pantry, the silver pantry. Here we have a note on the loot or the items. The silver cornucopia, always overflowing with delicious fruit, and anyone who tastes it is captivated by its flavor. And there's a recipe for Grandma Teresa's sauce. If prepared with the correct ingredients, it restores 1d4 hit points per serving. But what is the proper ingredients? I guess we'd have to just come up with that ourselves. And there's a meat golem. Yes. So if cursed, the cornucopia will be fully tarnished to produce only foul-smelling, rotting fruit. And then the sauce recipe will produce food that appears delicious but is actually toxic. Oh, no. And then if cursed, if they come to the pantry cursed, they get the meat golem. Oh, that's great. So we have some guards. I'm just kind of scrolling through these. I really like this layout. I'm really digging. This is not the first book I've seen piece do this, but this just really clean. You know, granted it adds to the page count, which I know some folks are critical of online. Like, this seems like 20 things, and it could be in 10 pages instead of 20. I don't care about that at all. What I like is that since each room is on its own page, really cleverly laid out, you can easily reference them using large text. I don't have to squint to read. Like I said, I would change that font color because I just don't think it works well from a. I bet if you check that against kind of the contrast things for kind of usability for people with don't have great sight or color blindness, I can't imagine it would pass. I mean, I'm just looking at it like this. I'm just having a lot of trouble with the headings. Not so much. I guess the font is thick enough and big enough that you get enough that color. But man, on the regular kind of size font, it's really tight. The one thing I was going to look at, what I feel like they should add to this, so that because Brian and I have been going back and forth in the chat a little bit over the summary here, and I think one thing I would do is put the page numbers in here, and that way then it becomes a much more useful sort of print. And I wonder if I put this in, which I didn't do, which I probably should have. I put this into book view, so I could see it as it would be in spreads. Yeah, okay, so that probably would be how I looked at it, because now you see exactly how it goes. Put the page numbers in there, because then this becomes much more useful to me, or at least this part, because I can use that as my index of rooms, the pages. I'll stay in the spread view, I think, for new. Then we got the ground floor. Got the same layout. Again, very nice. Servants, guards. If cursed, one fresco will come to life as the others start to crumble. Roll d4 to determine which scene animates. The training room. The record room. Kitchen, the pantry, the dining hall. The bar. There's Melania. Melania George is there. Growing Sacred Spire is in the chapel. Oh my god. Oh, there's a fecal creature in the background, and that's what it's called. Fecal creature. Oh, look at that. It's even got little dripping poos coming off of its kind of slimy poo body. Can unleash a foul spray that hits up to 3 opponents at range. Not cool, man. Not cool. All right, and then we get the upper floors. Statue, balcony, gargoyle, library, librarian, greenhouse. Oh, nice. We get some garden oddities. Purple mushroom has a lemony scent, and if eaten, it fully restores health. I would actually make these into tables. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you got 6. Roll these up. That way you could have totally random. You might have yellow berries that smell like licorice. If consumed, shrink the caster for 10 minutes, or eater for 10 minutes. Yeah, I would just make that to a quick D6 table, and you could roll those up. Or I suppose you can do it anyway, but I would just literally make it into a rolling table, a table you could roll on. Let's see, you got the museums, or a museum, Celine's room, secret altar, anything. What's that? Hidden chamber reveals a circular altar engraved with concentric designs, surrounded by dozens of candles that cast a violet glow. Placing the opaque purple pyramid on the altar will cause it to illuminate, summoning a small black humanoid creature with the glowing purple pyramid for a head, which will serve whoever summoned it. It introduces itself as I. I does not engage in combat, and if threatened, will attempt to escape in a cloud of smoke. Is extremely fragile, falling with a single hit, but possesses the unique ability to identify any magical artifact in its presence. The altar connects to a twin altar in the trophy room and can be used as a teleport by jumping onto it. Oh, that's kind of a cool thing. Music room, an armament gallery, and then finally the Hall of Wonders, which we have a bunch of stuff in here. The black monolith, what's it say? A Roderick Shield, Roderick Shield. Celeste Pitcher, Cloak of Death's Bearer, legendary Ikmir Powders, the Sanguinite Imperial Blade, Mano de Petar. Mano de Petar, aka the Hand of Petar. Let's see, if this area is cursed, a deep, continuous hum fills the room. The golden patterns and designs on the carpet shift like a kaleidoscope, and the fingers of Petar's hands sway. All right, and then we have a game room, the Hall of Delights, another bathroom with another fecal creature. I do appreciate having all the bathrooms. It's a nice thing. For folks who are wondering about their realism of these places, you got your toilets, the hero's quarters, and then finally the Great Hall. And then it says, and now, in the highly unlikely event that the goblins manage to escape the manor with the Hand of Petar in tow, the story might draw to a close, but why make it easy? The goblins are disoriented, exhausted, and have no idea how to reach their tunnels. And what if the curse is spread there as well? What awaits them next? Only the game will reveal. Well, there you have it. So this is really fun. It's really fun. Seems like a really fun romp. Obviously, I can't speak to how it plays because I haven't played it. There's a lot going on here. I don't know. I'm curious. I guess you're just starting off with just a couple of hit points. I'm wondering, and I don't know how. So the one, let me try to think about this. The one thing about this, and it's not even a bad thing. It's just something that I think I'd want to maybe be aware of or try to figure out is you're in a situation that the party as the goblins in this manner, it would be difficult to take the social aspects of the game very well. So, if you're playing this in BX, let's say, okay. So if you're the party and you're going up into something, right? You're we don't have to fight everything because we got reaction rolls, everything. We can do to try to short circuit encounter. We could speak a common tongue. We could talk to them. We can bargain. We can threaten. We can whatever. So we can get around fighting everything. As the goblins in this situation, in this place, knowing that essentially if they're seen out in the halls, they're going to be seen as escaped prisoners, essentially. The ability to talk your way out of issues is going to be difficult. So I'd probably want to think about as a GM how maybe because after the curse goes, I think that maybe makes it easier. Because after the curse goes, you might get a lot of, you could try to play it off as it's every man for themselves. The manor's going nuts. So they're not as concerned with the goblins anymore. Though it seems like on the one hand that's true, but on the other hand, they also talk about ramping up the tensions by having more and more guards be looking for them, which I think just can make it tough. I'd be curious to see how far people get. Like they say at the end, on the unlikely event you actually make it out of here, right? It could be really tough because remember, you can't even it's not even just about escaping. You got to go up, come up to the top, get something, and then get back out again. So this is like kind of rough, but it seems like also be a lot of fun. And I would have no problem of just playing it, like Brian Smith says, highly one-shottable. Playing it up, and goblins are going down like flies, but then more goblins are showing up because there were other cages somewhere, and they met up or they escaped already and they're running around. So just keep throwing goblins at the problem until it comes up. But it seems like just a really fun adventure with great style, and I think it's really just laid out in a nice, clean, clear way. I really like these room layouts. I like that they call out kind of the cursed states. All the different creatures, monsters, whatever, have their little images very cleanly laid out. Like I said, the color scheme I like. Just the smaller the text is on the page, the more that lime green or whatever green color I feel like is something that I would. Unfortunately, you might have to look at doing another one, doing a different color. If not for me, then for the folks who are colorblind, because it's not good. But that's really the only really critique I have, really meaningful critique, is just that color. That color is no good. I love the style of the maps. I think they're also very usable and just kind of easy. You can drop this into anywhere, anywhen. All you have is you go from, it just takes place all in a manor house. So where that manor house is totally up to you. Where the goblins We're completely up to you. Everything's up to you. The hand is a really intriguing object. I mean, do we know how much the goblins know about how this works? Were they ever around for a ritual where anything was done with this, or do we have to figure it out? I might even tell them about it, because then on the way out it does give them an extra edge if they can start doing stuff. But I might also have there be a cost, because right now it seems like super powerful, and it would make you wonder, well, why aren't people using this? Why haven't the goblins been using this in their own lair and jump? Obviously, besides the fact that taking it out of its resting place causes a curse to start going on, it's one of those things like, why haven't they deployed this in their own defenses? So I'm wondering what the cost might be for use. It's like, hey, yeah, you've got all these different things you can do, but or maybe even it might even be fun to say, well, as the goblins, that the hand will do things on position the fingers, but you don't know what the different finger positions do, and you can have fun with them discovering it. But how much time do they have to play around with it before all heck breaks loose? But yeah, this is a lot of fun, and keep in mind, with the package, you're gonna get paper minis for a bunch of the stuff. You're gonna get a soundtrack. Well, and you get the map, and I do think that adding the page numbers makes these a lot more, just adds an extra bit of usability. That way I could print out these 2 pages with the map numbers, and then I can have the PDF, or I can print, and then I can just, as they're going into places, I can just go to those page numbers. As do. Brian says it might print out all right in black and white. It might. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a filter for like view in black and white. Nope, there isn't. So I can't tell. But yeah, it's really fun. It seems really, really fun, really flavorful, and yeah, you get to play as the goblins for once. And I think I would definitely play that up a lot, right? Lean in on your goblins kind of things, which even might be fun to play with some things like rats, because you think about it. If you really want to go the full Monty of inverting dungeon tropes, right? Dungeons are always filled with things like rats and stuff like that live with the goblins. So that maybe when you after the curse happens and you see the rats in the room, like maybe you could actually get along with the rats. Maybe you speak rat. Someone might. I think there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with the rodents and the rats and some of these various things. But a good time. It reminds me of there was a story that I used to read to my daughter called was it Nobody Loves a Goblin? And it was a similar kind of thing. It obviously didn't go like this, but it starts off with adventurers coming in and trashing a goblin, and then I forget what they take away from the place, and then this goblin backtracks the adventurers along their way and picks up allies as they go. So they pass a cave with an ogre in it, and the ogre comes with them, and they keep finding people, finding things to help, and then they end up being like they end up kicking out the adventurers and becoming like a goblin king. Very cute. Ian says, for some accompanying text, the Pathfinder We Be Goblins series of free RPG Day mod adventures are very fun. Oh, cool. I like this. It's very light. I mean, Pathfinder, I guess if you want to get into the 3rd edition stuff, maybe you can just rip the context out, the text out, and not worry about Pathfinderisms. I think the other thing I like is that they keep everything pretty easy to run. I think the curse is not going to be difficult to run. You can have a lot of fun with those things, but you can also get really complicated. And I think they did a good job with, it's not super complex, like the whole map changes and now all this stuff's like, it's like, no, it's pretty, all right. The rooms, some things happen, doesn't change the rooms so radically that we need a whole new map or anything like that. It just affects, everything is kind of contained, right? Things are, the effects of a particular room kind of stay in that room, but it does give a nice flavor, especially if you're backtracking. Like, okay, you're running this way, and the curse goes off. Now you're coming back, and you're going into rooms you already went in, and there's something different. It also means that there's a nice clock in there, just in terms of some of the things that could be really helpful. If you don't get there before the curse, now they're really unhelpful. Or a place that might have been a safe, just kind of calm, quiet spot, like the bathroom, now has a poop golem waiting for you, some kind of poop monster, a fecal creature waiting for you. So there's a nice thing there too with how the curse. I might just give them 6. I guess that's up to you, is your schedule. I might actually just give them the first our first 6 turns and just have the curse kick in after that, rather than the random part. Or maybe, I think you could probably, I'm sure you probably find your sweet spot over how many turns you want to give them a sort of free exploring before you ramp things up with the curse. Because it does take certain things off the board. Like there is that thing that, hey, if you make the sauce, it'll heal you hit points, which can be really valuable, but you can only do that pre-curse. So if you do that after the curse, then it basically inverts the effect. So some things you can't, once the curse does, it does take once the curse kicks in, certain options are taken off the table. So I guess you just got to figure out how much time you have to play and how tense do you want it to be, and kind of how difficult you want it to be is when you want the curse to run in. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much to who sent this thing to me? To Giovanni Nava for sending this over to me. It was a really fun, great read, really well put together, well designed. Kudos to them. It is on drive-through. I don't know if it's on itch. I didn't check. It's on drive-through. I did put the promotional check mark just in case, but like I said, they sent it to me, but just kind of me to look at, and no expectations were made. And of course, I didn't read it in advance. So all I could do is read through it and give you my thoughts, which is what I did. So since I'm recording this before American Thanksgiving, have a great Thanksgiving. Or if it's just a normal rest of the week for you, then have a great rest of your week. Or whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. Talk to you later.